anytime now. And just a quick reminder to all the participants that the link has been shared in the chat room for the attendance. So please go right ahead and open the chat box, and then you can click on the link and register your attendance for this evening. Very well. I think we can get started. So as I had said before, we have with us Mr. Usher and Mr. Scholl, both from the DFC, and they are going to be presenting on the different services that the DFC has to offer. So without any further ado, over to you, Mr. Usher and Mr. Scholl.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Mr. Murray. I'm just going to share my screen. Basically, what I'll be walking through this evening with you guys is specifically how to access financing from DFC. The presentation will relatively be straightforward. We will have a section for questions and answerings, or comments, if any, at the end of the session. So I would advise if anyone has any questions or come across any concern they have during the time of presentation, for them to just make note of it. Specifically, we'll be able to address all your questions and concern at the end of the presentation when we have our questions and answer section. To start off, specifically, just a brief background about the Development Finance Corporation, known as the DFC. It's the only development bank here within the entire country of Belize. We have over 59 years of experience thus far. We support sustainable development, and specifically what differentiates us from a credit union, or specifically what we consider a commercial financial institution. We're non-deposit and we're direct lending. So it's straightforward credit facility that we do. We are non-consumer based lending. That just relates to we don't offer personal loans. It has to have some form of development impact towards the economy within Belize, and specifically for MSME and productive loans that we offer. We're state-owned private sector-led board, and those are the major factors that differentiate us as a development bank rather than the other commercial institutions. Moving on. Our MSME or small business products. We consider micro and small enterprise, the MSE, the empowered business loans, and the renewable energy efficiency. These are three specific categories which falls under our small business loan product that we have to offer, and specifically what classifies a small business between micro and small that we consider it as. The owner manager, less than 5 employees, that's what we consider micro. The annual sales is less than 100,000. The investment is less than 50,000, and the manufacturing space, well, it's not necessarily defined. It's less than 404 square foot per se. When it comes to what we consider our small business or small business loan lending, it's usually between 5 to 19 employees. The annual sales generated is less than 500,000. The investment is less than 150, and specifically the space in terms of operations is 404 square feet. When it comes to micro and small enterprise, what we consider the small business as well, we have two specific categories. We have one we could consider our regular small business loan, and another facility which we consider empowered business loan. What I'll walk you guys through is the differentiation between both, so you know what is more applicable to your situation or the type of operation that you have. And you will also notice the differentiation in terms of benefits for each one of these facilities. While they're all considered small business, we have two specific categories which have different benefits. Under our regular program, or regular small business program, the borrowing is anywhere from 5,000 up to 40,000 maximum limit. It can be used for starting up, improvement, or expansion of our existing business. And the loan can be used for purchasing of equipment, services, vehicles, trade. It could use it in the industry, working capital, and other different type of facilities relative to the type of operation that you have. And under regular small business loan, the interest rate starts specifically at 7%, and it goes to 13%. It's risk-based lending. So what we'll do is we have a risk calculation sheet, which will be filled out based on the information we obtain from the respective business or the respective client, which would input it would input within our risk baseline sheet, and it would define specifically what the interest rate would be within the range of 7 to 13%. Our interest rates is on the reducing balance method, and for this specific type of loan, the repayment can be done within 5 years at maximum. We give up to 12 months grace period on principal, therefore only the interest would need to be met within those specific period. And the repayment is based on cash flow cycle. It can be done monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. The cash flow is all determined on the type of operations and specifically when revenue is being generated. So let's say, for instance, if you're doing an agricultural loan and you need to do the investment for preparation of land up to the point of harvesting, we're anticipating repayment until the harvesting is done and sales are made. Hence the reason we have flexible repayment for this type of facility. Our loan fees are 3% on the loan amount, and we also can do financing for that specific loan fees that's due. The eligibility for a small business loan with the DFC. You will either have to be a Belizean or a Belizean resident and 18 years of age or older. What we request is for entities to be locally registered, business registration, and have the formal trade license that's relative towards the type of operation that you're doing. Be financially viable in terms of at least having the project being able to control its operation and also sustain the loan being obtained. You must have some marketing strategy. This would tie into the sales being obtained and also ensure that the overall operational expense is being covered. When it comes to new clients seeking to start up a business, what we request for is 20% equity contribution. This does not necessarily have to be cash. It could be some other form of input. However, we request 20% for new clients, and for existing clients, what we request is 15%. In terms of security for the loan, we can do guarantors, collateral. By collateral, we're referring to real estate or some form of chattel, bill of sale on chattel. And specifically, what you need to do is just meet the 5 C's of credit, which you would have to have the character, the capital, the capacity, condition, and the collateral to obtain the loan. For these type of facility under our regular small business loans, anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000, you can borrow with 1 or 2 guarantor. For 1 guarantor to serve up to a loan amount of 20,000, that person must be a sole guarantor. And what we define as a sole guarantor is a person or entity who have a net worth 3 times the value of the loan and adequate repayment capacity of 35% of all declared liabilities. So that's what we considered for someone to be considered a sole guarantor. For any loan amount of above 20,000 to 40,000, what we request for is some form of real estate to be provided as collateral. Okay, just now the information I specifically went over was for the regular small business loans that we have to offer. Now we're going to into a slight differentiation between the categories. It's still under the small business lending program, but the differentiation is what we consider empowered loans or empowered business loans. These empowered business loans, what we try to do is promote gender mainstreaming. We have great consideration for single mothers and women in business. So we're trying to promote women who are within the business or who is seeking to become an entrepreneur, for them to pose these types of facility for the DFC and for us to take a look at it and provide financings as well. And also what we offer is for at-risk youths, men and women. And specifically what we consider at-risk youths are once you're living in a rural area, living in a high crime rate area, and you're seeking to do something with your life and have the formal business establishment operating, we also take those into consideration. For empowered business loans, there is a differentiation from the regular and this, and the major differentiation are as follows. For females, you have to be 18 years of age or older to be considered under this facility. And for young males, we consider them between the age of 18 to the age of 29 solely. So if you are male and you're above the age of 29, you won't be considered under the empowered business loan. Let's say, for instance, you're operating under a legal entity. Specifically, your business registration is owned by, let's say your business is owned and operated by more than one person. Let's say, for instance, husband and wife. If the wife have at least 50% ownership, we would be able to consider this under the empowered business loan. Or if someone between the age of 18 to 29 who's a young male have 50% ownership, we will be able to consider it under empowered business loan as well. The interest rate for this specific type of program is 7.5 to 9.5%, and it's also done on a risk-based lending. So what you'll notice is a differentiation in terms of the interest rate being offered. The empowered business loan has a lower interest rate. Also, the borrower contribution just needs to be 10% of the total project cost. So another differentiation is also the borrower's total contribution. It's also required to be lower for this specific program here. In terms of the repayment, the term is up to 6 years, inclusive of 1 year grace on the principal repayment. So we definitely give the 12 months grace that's due. However, besides the 5 years that's given for the regular small business loan, we specifically give 6 years for this type of facility. When it comes to the collateral, you will also see a variation in terms of what's required to be submitted or what can be required to secure the facility being obtained. For this, you can start a loan from 2,500 to 5,000 with solely promissory notes being executed. And in those instances, it's like the person who's borrowing does not need anyone to co-sign with them or to be a guarantor, anything to that extent. Once they can sign off with a promissory note stating that they will be liable to repay on their own for a loan amount of 5,000. What's required to be submitted for this consideration is a recommendation from an outstanding person from the community. So it's just one recommendation letter, which would follow the remaining submissions that would be needed to be considered under this collateral type. Anything above 5,000 to 40,000, it could be salary reduction order set in place, 2 guarantors or 1 sole guarantor, or we could use a combination of chattels as well. So we could use a combination of guarantor. Let's say, for instance, the loan amount you're seeking for is between 20 to 40,000. We could use a guarantor and also a bill of sale on a chattel if you have any existing. And when it comes to a loan amount above 40,000 to 75,000, then what we request is for real estate to be provided. If the real estate is not sufficient to cover the loan amount, then you could use a combination of chattels as well. So you will notice that the security-wise, the collateral for the Empower Business Loan is much more flexible, and also we can start the lending from 2,500 to 5,000 as opposed to a regular business program which start at 5,000. And also you'll notice that the limit increases for the empowered business loans. While the regular small business loan that we have caps at 40,000, this one is able to go up to 75,000. Retaining the small business loans we have to offer, what we stress on at the DFC is climate resiliency. DFC is championing a green economy for Belize, so we do offer facilities for improvement of existing establishments. We offer renewable energy loans and energy efficiency loans as well. This can be going in cap with the type of operation that's being done, and we offer these types of facility as well. And these can be done for Belizean homes, existing business in operation, whether it's relative to agriculture, transportation, or other type of facilities as well. And for informational purpose, you would say, why choose the DFC or a development bank rather than the commercial institution, Belize Bank, National Bank, Atlantic Bank, or even the credit union? There are certain differentiation with a development bank. We specifically do a counter-cyclical role to the natural business cycle. We assume greater risk in terms of what's being operated in terms of business startups. We increase spending during crisis. For example, during the time of COVID, as you may know, there are several establishments that was not providing financing. The DFC, as a development bank, believe that that's one of the times that different establishments might need the capital investments and working capital for them to expand on their business and have it established to another level. So we do provide financing during time of crisis. We invest in a low investment climate, and we practice forbearance, patience with our customers. So these are some of the different items which differentiate us from a commercial bank or any other financial institution that's out there as a development bank. What we require for these types of establishment is a business plan to be prepared and submitted for startups especially. This is crucial for accessing of financing because based on the business plan being provided to DFC and its respective officers, they will be able to conduct their analysis. And for the analysis to make sense, the business plan must be, I would say, what is being considered adequate or strong because it must meet the criteria in terms of appropriate management, appropriate collateral being provided to secure the loan, and also, most important, appropriate cash flow because the viability of the project must be there. So we ask for a formalized operation, specifically credibility. We ask that the business be registered and have the appropriate trade license. If you're an existing business, what we request for is bank registration or records of cash flow, specifically just to review the inputs, inflows, and outflows of cash so that we could determine the repayment of the establishment so that we can make it compatible with the type of operations. What we also look for is adequate business management capabilities, specifically just for that respective person to know what they're getting into and have the skills to manage the type of operation that they're getting into. With that said, we look for adequate marketing strategy. Um, in those instances, if you have letters of intent from different respective personnel, those could be supporting documents. You'd have to look at the market, you'd have to analyze the competitors, and also establish the business viability. By doing such, you would be aware of specifically the location you're situated and your clientele. So those are the different type of aspect that we're looking for. Also, risk assessment, identify and mitigate any risk relative towards the type of operations you're conducting. In terms of financials, we would ask if you're starting up for projected financials, we ask that it be realistic in terms of production and operational costs and realistic sales projections as well. And what we take into consideration for these types of small business operation is sustainability and the environment. The type of damage or impact it would have to the environment would be key. As a development bank, um, we try to promote an environmental friendly environment. So, and also we look for growth and a succession planning to be in place in the event of any unforeseen circumstances. We know that operations would be viable and able to continue. What we have here specifically is just a checklist of items as it relates to the small business loan. I would be able to share this item with you all. I could email Mr. Silvero after this presentation so that he has access to what's being requested from either the entity that's interested in the facility. It's quite straightforward as to the different type of documents I had mentioned prior, and it just summarizes what we're looking for in terms of brief documentation. The checklist, you will notice points in key the different type of items that you would need, as I have mentioned within the presentation earlier, and you would just specifically need to complete this. Each one of the documents you obtain, you could put a check mark, and once you have a full completion of this specific type of checklist, you're able to either do two things: set an appointment with the Development Finance Corporation or visit the office and request to speak to an officer. These items are quite straightforward. They are not drastically difficult to obtain, and for any small business operation to be considered for financing under the Development Finance Corporation, they must be able to meet these specific items. Going forward, in terms of location for accessing of funds from the DFC, we're located countrywide. The only differentiation in terms of our office is within the Punta Gorda branch. It's located at the Social Security Board office at the top right of the building, and specifically we go there twice a month, or every other Friday. It's either the 15th or the ending. We're located at that specific branch. Other than that, we can be found in the headquarters at the Belmopan, Belize District, Orange Walk, Corazon, and also San Pedro. And also we have one office in Dangriga, which the sub office falls within Punta Gorda for that specific branch. For informational purpose, accessing our website can provide you all with more information that would be relative to either small business or any type of facility that you're interested in. Our website is extremely user friendly. It has information on the different type of credit facility we have to offer, and also in detail information as to its requirement, and to see if you would qualify. You can always also get in contact with us from our website via our chat session that's available there, and that information comes directly to an officer at the headquarters who would be able to review and pass that information to a credit officer for them to get in contact with you all. And just for further information, I'm going to display how our website basically works. All you need to do is go within your Google tab, go to Development Finance Corporation website, and once that loads, you will be able to have access to our full web page. This information is being presented to you all from the DFC, and it specifically have the different type of financing we have to offer. So when it comes to the small business, like I have highlighted, there are two types. We have the empowered business loan, that's for women and young men, and our regular small business loans. Once you click on either one of these specific categories, what it would do is transcend you to an information page that would have access to everything that I've spoke about earlier. So from here, you would know ideally what type of documents you would need to submit for you to be considered for a credit facility with the DFC. Also, what's helpful from our webpage, it presents you with a copy of what we consider a business plan, so that you have a template which can be followed if you're not familiar with what a business plan should be. And it just outlines the basic information an officer would need to know so that you can be guided appropriately. What we have here on our website is also our contact information, which you can contact any one of the respective branches. From here, you would get direct contact with the branch manager for each one of the different location, and you could either email or get in contact with us via telephone number that's available, and it also specifically our address and opening hours. With that said, that basically concludes the presentation we had prepared. So what we'll do is just open up the floor to any questions, any concerns that you have, so that we could provide some form of clarification if needed.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Osha. Any questions from the floor? It seems as though our EQATs are a bit shy this evening. They haven't recovered from the long weekend. Come on, guys. Do you have any questions?
Yes, hello, good evening. Can you guys hear me, Mr. Marin?
Yes, Mr. Khan.
Yes,
Wait,
yeah,
how-
Roberto Khan here. I have a question concerning the loans for the small businesses. Do DFC has any sort of insurance, or let's say if there is a natural disaster or risk that my business would take, for example, if in agriculture, do you guys have an insurance part for the business loan?
When it comes, great question, Mr. Khan. Thank you for your question as well. Appreciate it. When it comes to insurance within the agriculture sector, that has been a dilemma for the entire country, I would say there, Mr. Khan, because for crops specifically, it's difficult to have it insured. So as it relates to if the DFC can insure your crop for agriculture loan, no, we cannot. We do not have any insurance policy set in place for that.
Okay, so if you don't have a policy, because let's say like my business is beekeeping, So I work with the livestock section. So what type of approach would you guys take? Let's say if I invest in my business and I borrow a loan from you guys and invest, I don't know, in 500 hives, and then let's say a hurricane comes and destroys I don't know 80% of what I have.
Okay.
What would be the agreements to repay back the loan?
Excellent follow-up question there, Mr. Khan. When it comes to situations like that, that's what specifically differentiates a development bank rather than a commercial institution. Um, we, as I highlighted, are willing to work with their client, and we offer some level of forbearance. So within unforeseen situations like that, which we know the environment has, environment and climate change can have a major play within the agriculture sector. When it comes to situations like that, the DFC would do an analysis of your project, and we would reassess your project specifically based on the damages that have occurred and your current level of operations, and try to work with you in terms of adequate repayment that would be sustainable based on your current operation as is still. We'll try to seek ways that we could improve the operation to have it running as it once was. No, so the DFC, definitely we do field work in terms of visitation to the different type of establishment, especially when the disaster occurs. We do an full assessment of the damages that have occurred, because in that specific point in time, the cash flow would change based on your type of operation. And that's one of the reasons why we also stress on the cash flow of the type of business you're in, because when such damages occur, we can't expect that sales and productions are to remain the same. So us as a development bank, we're willing to work with our different entities and our clients within those situations there. And we have experience where we have encountered such situation, and we have basically worked with our clients as best as possible. What we request is just for our clients to be open and express to us as well, um, specifically type of damages. And what we want to see from our clients as well is them to provide some level of mitigating factors, because while we are aware such can occur, there are some level of mitigation that we can conduct to ensure that we try to reduce the level of impact that can occur at certain times.
Oh,
I
okay,
just I
sure.
just want to if I may add, Mr. Khan, what in terms of forbearance, what the DFC has done is like we can be able to grant what you call moratorium, where during the period of recovery, you may only need to service the interest on the loan, and then we forego or provide a period whereby you don't make any payments towards the principal until the business recovers, and that's what Usher is saying. We do a reassessment of the operation. We look at your cash flow and see at what point in time your cash flow or your business can be able to generate back the income, adequate level of income, start to service the loan. Additional to that, we have our payments are flexible in terms of what we do, what we call fully plan, whereby the initial payments that we resume may be lower, and eventually as your operation gets back into in order, then the business can be able to afford to repay more. So you will see we can be able to work out our payment plan whereby your payment will increase over a period of time. We can extend the term of the loan, and things like that. That is where the forbearance comes in, no?
Okay, thank you very much. It really cleared my doubts. And I have the other thing I heard during the presentation was that you guys do a risk assessment before let's say if I want to make a loan, you would see the do a risk assessment of the business. So that would entail if the business qualifies to getting either a loan from $4,000 to $20,000 for the business.
When it translates to the risk assessment being conducted, the risk assessment is for two specific purposes. We want to check we'll specifically look at the viability of the project and its overall components related towards it. Part of it is looking at environmental impacts that it has, and how it can be affected negatively. So that would be determined on the interest rate and the loan amount you're seeking to borrow as well. So let's say, for example, the risk assessment turns out to be high. It's a high risk facility that we're seeking to finance. The interest rate would be a little higher. The lower the risk of the type of business you're operating, then specifically the lower the interest rate would be as well. That's why we have gauging interest rates that start at one point and end at another point.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, guys? This is your opportunity to clear up any doubts that you might have. You have Mr. Osha and Mr. Scholl here who can answer all your questions. Remember, you can also write it in the chat if you don't want to express it out, and we can write it in the chat and then we can read it for you. We don't seem to be getting any other questions. And I think that your presentation was quite well put together and very informative. You know? So I'm sure that there are not so many questions or doubts. We have been exploring the different avenues of financing that the incubatees have, and most of them are micro enterprises. So they're startups and they're looking at the ways in which they can expand their business. So, and during the incubation process, then we're helping them to stabilize their business and also to set forward the path for growth. You know? And so we hope that many of them will then be able to reach out to you guys for additional services. No? I think that the point person to contact would be Mr. Scholl. Is that right, Mr. Osher?
Yes, that's accurate. What I'll do at this moment, I will display within the chat the checklist that which I had shown earlier. That has information in terms of if anyone is interested in a facility, they could obtain those documents and provide them directly to us. I'll also place the contact number, which you can get in contact with us specifically at the headquarters. And also, Mr. Shell has already included his email, which if you have any questions, concern, you're interested in a facility, you can contact him directly at his email address being levi.shell@dfcbelize.org. The contact information for our Cairo branch, Belmopan, is 822-2550 and 822-3560. So in those instances, Mr. Shell already included the extension for his contact information as well. And if anyone is interested or knows someone who is interested and need any information or anything to that extent, you could just feel free to contact us. We will definitely respond within a day time by the end of the working day and then notify you once we receive and how we could proceed forward.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Osher. Thank you so much, Mr. Scholl. It has been great having you guys here. And I'm sure that if there's any questions, then the participants here will reach out either directly or through us, their mentors, and then we can have the questions posted to you.
No problem. Thank you very much for the invite, Mr. Marin, and thanks you all to the participant for attending as well.
Thank you, everyone. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Morin. Thanks
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Good night.
We look forward to hearing from you all. No?
Absolutely, Mr. Scholl. Thank you so
Sure.
much. All the best,
Yeah.
everyone. Have a great night.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.